Nobody else was disappointed. Really a great match. We'll be back for some final words. It's tough. Those are four-legged animals, though.
That's exactly right.
Four-wheeled animals.
Boy, can they run. That's my sport, I'll tell you that. From Pimlico Racecourse, live at 3:30 p.m. Sunday Silent, still something of a question mark, but he probably will be going in the Preakness Stakes. Meanwhile, here, we had a most entertaining evening talking about both boxing and auto racing, as a matter of fact, but the main event, really everything that it was built.
It really was. I mean, you can't pack more drama, I don't think, into a bout than we had here. Good boxing, a swollen eye, knockdowns, some bizarre officiating, and a lot of excitement from this local crowd.
Mike Pollitt, a very outspoken young man, saying basically that Danny Morgan was destined to win that fight.
Well, you know, he made some strong charges. Whether they're true or not true, the bottom line, in my opinion, is that there were some strange things that happened at the end of that fight.
Let's take a look at some of the strange things that did happen at the end of that fight as we go back and take another look at the 7th and ultimately the final round. Mike Pollitt knew at this point that he had to go out there and get Danny Morgan out of there, and we have been speculating all along that Morgan had already taken Pollitt's best shot. Well, it shows you what we know.
Well, I'll tell you, the eye had swollen badly. They'd come in before this round and we thought they might stop it. And really, they took a long time and said to Mike Pollitt, really, in effect, you got one more round. Here's where he went after Danny Morgan. Landed some excellent right hands. Morgan admitted he was hurt. Now, let's see if it's true about the long 8 count, which Pollitt was alleging. 5, 6, 7, 8. Not too long. A little long, but not too long.
Had a 4.5 count there.
Yeah,
Also,
maybe.
actually.
And now here's where Morgan, give him credit. He sucked it up and he said, I got to try and nail this guy with something. Pollitt got a little bit careless, I think. And Danny Morgan nails him with a big right hand.
It really was a huge right hand upcoming. And there it is. And a left put him down.
Now here's where things get a little dicey in my opinion. Now yeah, he's a little glassy-eyed, this is true, but you know what? You got to give the guy a couple of seconds at least to think about getting up. Now here, he's trying to get up. They're going to push him back down. Well, there's Danny Morgan, but the fact is, I'm not saying Mike Pollitt would have come back to win this fight. I'm not even saying he would have beaten the 10 count. But he had a shot at beating the 10 count because when they did let him up, he jumped up like everything was cool. And I think the whole point of that is, even if a fighter could potentially be hurt, if you wait 3 seconds, that isn't going to make the difference between anything. You have to give that man, who is the kind of guy that is a tough guy and gets up, you've got to give him a chance to get up.
No, in fact, and he had done that, the same referee had done that in an earlier fight, in a 4-round fight, when Luna, the fellow who we were talking about, was not being in great shape, went down early in the fight, and he didn't even count over Luna, too. So it wasn't unprecedented, second time in one night.
And believe me, I'm not suggesting that for safety's sake, referees sometimes don't count at all. Many times we've seen referees do that, and many times it's been appropriate. But in this case, he didn't even have a second to look at this guy before he was sitting on top of him, and there was no way that Mike Pollitt was going to get up.
So Danny Morgan is a winner, running his record to 30-0, and at some point somebody's going to have to pay some attention to him and say, maybe we ought to let this guy take the next step up and eventually perhaps to a title shot. Top Rank Boxing has been brought to you tonight by Old Spice Liquid Stick, the most advanced form of protection in the world. By Budweiser Beechwood Age, for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Fuji, makers of quality film and cameras. Fuji, a new way of seeing things. We'll be back to wrap things up from here at the Tyndall Armory in Indianapolis, Indiana, when we come back to just take one more look at all that happened after this. Well, there are a couple of quick ones tonight, a couple of most entertaining ones, a couple of young fighters who you're going to see an awful lot more of, and one guy who you're going to have to start to take pretty seriously. That was the story of this card tonight, Al.
Charles Murray winning very impressively. Vince Phillips, Ray Mercer with a first-round KO against David Hopkins, who shouldn't have been there, and Clarence White in a very entertaining 4-round decision, and then Danny Morgan in that dramatic knockout win over Mike Pollitt. And I don't want to get lost in the shuffle in me talking about the controversy over George DeFabis' refereeing. I don't want to get lost in the shuffle the fact that, yes, Danny Morgan is better than a club fighter. He's the kind of guy that, if given the right opportunity, might be able to fight somebody in the upper echelon. Whether he could win, I don't know, but he's got a tough chin and he's got some boxing skills.
Yeah, and at some point, when you're 30-0, somebody's got to take a look at you. Here he is in a main event on national television. He's got to be doing something right.
Yeah, and I think they should give him a shot to step up to that next notch.
Big win for him. Danny Morgan remains undefeated. He has won 30 without a loss. Well, we'll remind you that next week it'll be Irish Mickey Ward against Clarence Coleman. It starts at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. For now, from Indianapolis, for Al Bernstein, I'm Barry Tompkins. See you next week in Atlantic City. See a pretty good middleweight fight. Let's talk about the keys to victory.